They brought him into the light and told him to choose. 2 alien women knelt on black stone, silver collars locked to a single iron ring. The crowd roared for blood or love, either would do. The drums hit like thunder. The air smelled like cold metal and old smoke. The MC lifted a shining blade and shouted, "Champion, take your prize." Jonas did not move. He only looked at them. One woman was tall and strong with night blue skin and a broken horn on her brow. The other was smaller, with pale silver hair and a face like a storm about to break. Their wrists were raw from chains. Their eyes were clear. Not animals. Not prizes. People. The 10 seconds were long enough to change a life. "I choose both," Jonas said. The arena went silent, like someone pulled sound from the sky. Then the laughter began. Sharp, mean laughter from thousands of alien throats. Above the ring, banners trembled in the wind that cut across the desert city of Namir. The High Warden stood from his throne of welded guns. His face was grey stone. "You may choose one," the Warden said. "That is the law. 1 prize, 1 chain, 1 mouth to feed." "I choose both," Jonas repeated, and his voice did not shake. "Break the law if you must. I will not choose between lives." The tall woman's eyes flickered with a hint of pressure, like she could push a mountain if given a chance. The small woman stared at the ground, but her hands tightened. The Warden's smile showed black teeth. "Human, the pit crowned you champion. You bled for entertainment. You killed my pit lizard with your bare hands. For this you may take a prize. But you defy me in my house." Jonas lifted the medal they had hung around his neck. It was cheap alloy, decorated with a roaring beast. "Who gave me this?" he said. "You said it means honor. If your honor is real, you can honor mercy." It was a simple line. It landed harder than he expected. The crowd did not cheer. They watched. The Warden's voice grew soft, which was worse than the shout. "The collars bind them to me, not to you. They are war captives. Taking both would cancel the price I paid for seizure. That would make you thief. We cut hands from thieves." Jonas nodded slowly. "Then I buy them. With what?" "Humans pay in promises," Jonas said. "And in trouble. We are rich in both." The small woman's mouth almost smiled. The tall woman watched the Warden, not Jonas. She had the stare of a soldier. "Names," Jonas said, gentle now to the 2 women. "If you want to tell me." The tall one spoke first. "Saru," she said. Her voice was low, steady. She tilted her head toward the other woman. "And she is Nay." Nay kept her eyes on the black stone. "Nay is dead if you choose wrong," she said. "So choose with care, human." Jonas took a slow breath and looked at the High Warden. "You call this a reward," he said. "But it is a test. You want me to pick one and pretend the other is not there. You want me to be like you." The Warden's grey face wrinkled. "I want you to understand that the world is heavy, and you have only 2 hands." Jonas stepped to the iron ring that held the chains. He placed both palms on it. The metal was cold as moonlight. He spoke so the arena could hear. "Humans have a rule. We found it in fire and storms and long nights. The rule says no one left behind. It is old and simple. It is a rule of family, not of war." He looked up. "I choose both." It should have ended there, with a final laugh and a quick blade. But the desert has many laws, and not all of them were written by the Warden. An old woman in a yellow veil rose from the front row and rapped her staff on the stone. The sound was small and sharp. Heads turned. She was a judge of old accounts, rare, respected, dangerous. Even the Warden dipped his head. "High Warden," the judge said, "the human has invoked right of shelter. He has declared family. To deny it is to deny the shield that keeps us from beasts." The Warden's jaw worked. "The right is for citizens of Namir, not for wandering apes and pit meat." The judge tapped the staff again. "You hung a medal on him." "You called him champion. The right answers to honor, not to species." The crowd split into voices. Some shouted. Some cursed. Some laughed again, but with nerves this time. The Warden lifted a hand and the noise died. "Very well," he said. "Let us test his family claim. If he can keep both alive until sundown without my chains, they are his by shelter. If one dies or both die, the right dissolves. And I keep the bodies for the sand," he pointed. The collars on Saru and Nai blinked, and the chains dropped from the iron ring. The collars did not open. "Run," the Warden said softly. Hands smiled. They ran. They ran through the tunnel of the fighter's gate, past the stables that stank of reptile breath and blood, past racks of spears and the sharp whisper of saws. They ran under a hot sky where the sun threw knives at every shadow. Sirens began to cry, low and rising. Doors sealed. The city shifted beneath them, a maze waking up. Jonas had no map. He had instincts and a handful of scraps in his pocket. A second medal, a bent nail, a line of copper wire. He had 2 people who wanted to live. Collars, Saru said between breaths. Detonation shock sleep gas, not just locks. They will hiss and bite. How do we take them off? Jonas asked. We cannot, Nay said. He looked at her. Cannot or do not know how. Nay's eyes flicked to his for the first time. They were the color of wet ash. Do not know yet. Then we will learn. They cut right down a narrow street that tunneled between sandstone houses. The ground shook under them. From above, small drones dropped like silver locusts. They carried needles like teeth. Darts, Saru said, pulling Nay under a hanging canopy of dried fish. Sleep or worse. Jonas grabbed the canopy rope and yanked. The fish came down like rain, slick and heavy. Drones buzzed and slipped in the grease. Jonas swung the bent nail like a hook and knocked one drone into the wall. It cracked and bled sparks. Nay crouched by the broken drone and tore at its belly with her thin hands. Memory core, she muttered. Language is old. I can read this. Give me the wire. Jonas handed her the copper. Saru kept watch, body between them and the street, shoulders squared. People peered from doorways. No one risked speaking. Nay twisted wire into a little loop and bit it to strip the sheath fast and neat. She held the loop to the base of her collar. The signal is a chirp, she said. They ping the collar to wake the sting. If I can teach my collar to sing a dead song, it will not wake, Jonas finished. She nodded. Can you help Saru's after yours? Nay's mouth tightened. If I do not faint first. Saru glanced back with the ghost of a smile. You will not faint, Nay worked. The sirens wove a net of sound over the city. Footsteps hammered somewhere behind them. Jonas lifted the fallen drone, felt how light it was, and snapped off 2 of its arms. He made a crude sling and gave it to Saru. For throwing, he said. She spun it once, testing balance. Nay hissed as a spark bit her finger. Then her collar went dark. Not open, not gone, silent. She grabbed Saru's collar next. Her hands shook now. Jonas held her wrist steady without squeezing. He spoke to keep her mind awake. Why were you taken? He asked them. What war? Not war, Saru said. Debt. My people owed the warden a weight of ore. The ore ran short. He took Nay because she is a tinkerer, quick with her hands, and me because I argued. You argued well, Jonas said. She did not smile at that. I argued until they broke my horn. Nay exhaled, long and shaky. Saru's collar went dark too. Footsteps. Voices. A squad of the warden's runners turned the corner with shock rods crackling. Saru's arm moved. The drone arm sling whistled and struck the lead runner in the chest. He fell like a tree. Jonas threw the drone shell at the second runner's knees. Nay caught Jonas's sleeve and pulled the 3 of them through a narrow door that smelled like dust and tea. They tumbled into a dim kitchen. A stove hissed. An old man stood behind a counter with a kettle and 4 cups. He looked at them the way farmers look at storms. You bring trouble, he said. We carry it carefully, Jonas said. Please. The old man poured tea. The judge is my cousin, he said. I will say I never saw you. He lifted a tile on the floor. Under the tile was a trap door. He opened it and pointed. Go down. The old water tunnels. They run under Namir like veins. They are not on the warden's maps. When you come to the 4-way fork, smell for crocus. The scent will lead you to the desert. Thank you, Saru said and bowed. The old man's eyes paused on Jonas. Humans and their families, he said. May your trouble be worth the price. They went down into the cool dark. They moved fast. The tunnel floor was gritty and damp. Rats watched with bright little eyes. The sirens above were muffled, but there was a new sound now, metal feet on stone, closer, echoing. The warden had sent something heavier into the maze. Nay spoke as they ran. The collars are quiet, but they still listen. They may wake if the system senses silence for too long. It expects heartbeat, breath, steps. If the pattern is wrong, it pings hard. Can we trick it? Jonas asked. Yes, we give it a different song to follow. How? She tapped the medal on his chest. This. It's junk, he said. It hums, she said. Everything hums if you listen. Your medal buzzes when you move. We can teach the collars to chase that buzz instead of our breath. Jonas did not argue. He took the metal off and pressed it between their two collars, metal to metal. Nay linked them with the copper wire. She hummed. A low, steady tone, and the collars vibrated lightly with the same note. Saru added her deep voice, and Jonas joined, off-key but loud. They sounded like an odd little choir in the dark. The metal feet came closer. A machine rounded the bend. A broad crawler with 8 legs and a mouth of needles. It did not see with eyes. It tasted air and heat. It found them and shrieked, "Left!" Saru snapped. They dove into a side passage. The crawler hit the wall and chewed stone. Dust filled the air. Jonas coughed and coughed again, hard enough to break the hum. He forced his voice back up, raw. Nay slapped his back once. "Keep singing," the slap said. "Keep the song alive." They reached the 4-way fork. The air smelled like cold and something sweet. "Crocus," Nay said, smiling a little around her fear. "This way." They ran toward the scent. Behind them, the crawler jammed itself in the narrow bend and tore its own legs trying to turn. Screams drifted down from it, the machine kind, sharp and mindless. The tunnel grew wider. Light came from ahead, thin and white. They stepped into a cave mouth. The desert lay beyond, flat and clean, the sky a hard blue bowl. "There," Saru said, pointing. A low shape squatted in the sand. A sand sledge with a cracked sail and a rattling little ion engine. Jonas climbed on, checked fuel, laughed once. "We have 3 kilometers of luck," he said. "Maybe 4. They loaded onto the sledge and kicked the engine to life. It coughed, spat, and then hummed steady. The sail filled. The sledge slid across the sand like a knife across soft bread. The city fell behind. The sirens faded. The sun marched up the sky. They did not speak for a while. The wind spoke for them. At last, Saru said, "You had no reason to take both. Why did you?" Jonas looked out at the empty line where the sand met the sky. "Because when I was a boy, my father drove rescue boats in storms," he said. "He told me there is always one more wave, one more call, one more hand up from the water. You learn to turn the boat again. You learn to go back." Nay watched his face as if testing the words for cracks. "And if the boat breaks, then you swim," he said. "You cling to someone else and take turns breathing." Saru nodded once. "I will stand with you, human. If the warden follows, I will break his teeth." "He will follow," Nay said. "He will not like losing his game." "He can chase," Jonas said. "Sundown is the line. If we live past that, we have shelter by their own rule." Nay grinned, quick and bright. "Then we simply live." The desert had other games. Heat wobbled like a living thing. Dust devils rose and danced. A line of dark shapes appeared on the horizon to their right. Riders on long-necked lizards, heads low, tails drawing letters in the sand. "The warden's hunters," Saru squinted. "7, she said. "No, 8. 1 more behind the crest." Jonas tightened his grip on the sledge's bar. "We cannot outrun them on flat ground." Nay shaded her eyes. "There," she said, pointing ahead. "The glass fields." The glass fields were a wound where an old war had melted sand into black sheets and green-blue plates. The field cut the desert like a river frozen hard. Jagged waves of glass rose and fell, sharp and shining. Wind hissed across it and made a sound like voices. "We can cross," Nay said. "The sledge has belly skids. The riders cannot. Their lizards' feet will cut." Jonas grinned. "Hold tight." They hit the edge of the glass and the sledge skittered, then found a line. The runners hummed. Behind them, the riders slowed, tested the edge, pulled back. One fool tried and his lizard screamed. Blood smeared a bright red arc on black glass. The warden's hunters fanned and tried to box them in, moving to find a way around the field. The sun kept climbing. "How long to sundown?" Saru asked. 4 hours, Jonas said. "Maybe less." "Too long to run," Nay murmured. "We make a change." "What kind?" Nay held up the collars. They still hummed with the medal song. "We make the collars sing too loud," she said. "We make the warden hear the wrong ghost. We send our song back into his house." Jonas blinked. "Can you do that?" Nai's hands were steady again. "Yes," she said simply. "I needed time." The drone core helped. The old man's tea helped too. She opened a little panel on the collar with the bent nail and twisted a dial with her fingernail. "What does it do?" Saru asked. "It tells every ear that listens that we are everywhere," Nai said. 3 little shadows on every street at once. 1,000 heartbeats under his floor. Jonas laughed, a choked sound that felt like hope. "Let's haunt him." They crossed the glass. The sound rose around them, wind and buzzing collars and the small steady whine of the engine. The hunters lost sight of them behind a black crest, and gambled left when the sledge went right. Minutes bled away. A shadow slid across the glass. Jonas looked up and saw a wide-winged shape, one of the warden's gliders, silent, deadly, a knife of air. It banked, hunting. Saru stood and planted her feet. "Down," she told Nay, and lifted the drone arm sling. "You cannot knock a glider from the sky with that," Jonas said. "I can make it blink," she said, and swung. The throw was clean. The broken drone arm flew up and smacked the glider's nose. It did not fall. It wobbled. For a moment, its pilot had to think about falling. In that moment, Nay turned the dial all the way. The hum screamed. The glider's ears filled with a storm of fake lives. It rolled, confused, chasing 1,000 lies, and clipped a wave of glass. A wing tore and spun away. The glider went down in a spray of glitter and silence. They made the far edge of the field. The sand was soft there, full of shards and heat. The sledge slowed. The engine coughed and died. 3 kilometers of luck had become 3.5. They climbed off. Their legs were rubber. Saru rolled her shoulders. Nay panted, eyes bright. Jonas scanned the horizon. The hunters had lost time, but not enough. 2 had found a narrow isthmus of firm sand and were angling toward them. "Rocks ahead," Saru said. "A cut in the dunes. If we can make it there, we can hold." They walked at first. Then they ran again. The collars sang. The sun slid down. The shadows grew longer and kinder. The rocks opened like teeth. They dove into the cut and felt cool shade. The first rider came into sight and raised a shock rod. Saru moved. She grabbed the rod with one hand and the rider with the other and threw both into the rock wall. The rod sparked and died. The rider did not get up. The second rider tried to pull back too late. Jonas yanked him from the saddle, and the 2 of them rolled in sand and dust. The lizard snapped and ran. Jonas took a fist to the mouth and tasted blood. He spit and grabbed the shock rod and pressed it to the rider's armor until the man stiffened and fell. Silence again, except for their hearts and the collar's thin cry. They waited in the rocks. Time stretched, then snapped. The sun touched the horizon and slid under it like a coin into a pocket. The sky turned the color of ripe fruit. Somewhere in the city of Namir, a gong sounded, low and final. Nay held her breath. Saru did too. Jonas closed his eyes for half a second and opened them again. The collars clicked softly. Then they opened. The bands fell like dead snakes into the sand. Nay laughed once and then started to cry. Saru's face did not change, but her shoulders eased. Jonas let his breath out and found he had been holding it for a long time. "Shelter," Nay said, voice breaking on the word. "We made shelter." Saru picked up one of the open collars and looked at it as if it were a fallen enemy. She threw it as far as she could into the dark. On the horizon, torchlights sparked as riders regrouped. They did not come closer. The judge's voice came to the rocks from a small device that hummed in Nay's pocket, the drone's core, hacked and repurposed. Her voice was warm and old. "Champion," she said. "The law holds. Before half the city, the warden confirmed the test, and the test is done. If he takes you now, he breaks the spine of his own throne. Will he try anyway?" Jonas asked. "Of course," the judge said, almost amused. "But not tonight." The device clicked off. They made a small fire in the shelter of the rocks. They drank water that tasted like metal and dust. They watched stars open above the desert like slow flowers. "Tomorrow," Nay said, "we will need a plan. The warden will find a new game. He will send papers. He will send knives." "Tomorrow," Saru agreed, "we will gather friends. Some live in the cracks, some live in the sun, and pretend they do not care until the wind changes." "The judge will help," Jonas nodded. "We build a circle," he said. "Humans are good at that. We draw a line on the ground. We invite people inside. We keep the fire burning," Nay tilted her head. "And if someone outside asks to come in, we make space," he said. A little more until everyone fits or the circle becomes a road." Saru looked at him across the small fire. "You chose both," she said. "You will have to keep choosing both." Again and again he smiled, tired and full. "That's the point." Above them the night wore its quiet like a cloak. Far away the warden watched the city and counted debts and planned teeth. Nearer the judge poured tea and said nothing. In the rocks, 3 people who were not prizes and not property and not alone breathed the same air and listened to the slow beat of their own small song. "Humans pay in promises," Jonas had said. He lay back on the warm stone and thought of his father's boat and the old rule. No one left behind. He closed his eyes and let the words become a door. He stepped through and slept. In the morning, the desert would shine white and hard and work would begin. They would not be bored. They would be busy. They would be loud. They would be family. And when the next choice came, as it always does, they would already know the answer.